Furthermore, I got essentially that is he wonderful, by no means except for you realize he has a damnation. I think everybody realized that the marriage among Tina and Richard Lawson won't last when Mother Tina chose to keep the last name of her chronic miscreant of an ex. When you told Matthew Knowles that you were pregnant with his kid, how could he respond particularly well, you can't get pregnant? By me you realize this can't be my kid. I mean, might it at any point get more rude than a lady keeping such a man's last name? Well, evidently, it can, and Tina has put poor Richard through beyond what you might at any point envision. I imagined the kind of man I needed. I petitioned God for the kind of man I needed. And I thought basically, that is he wonderful in no way, shape or form, yet you realize he has a ton of the characteristics. No, he has a ton of the characteristics that I love. And we're having a truly great time. And I'm appreciating life. So there is trust, ladies. Did you all see the appearance of disillusionment on that man's face? Now I realize that nobody is awesome. And Tina was basically dead on in let Richard know that he is more than a little flawed yet. It's the manner in which she said it, however, she humiliated the damnation out of her better half. And he was noticeably disturbed now that interview occurred in 2018. And in the years that followed, fans have been saying that they could see occasions where Tina was only deferential to Richard. So is it conceivable that he became weary of all the lack of respect and chosen to leave? Well, assuming that you were sharp enough, you presumably saw that something was happening over the most recent few months. Yet in the event that you haven't seen, here are a portion of the signs that individuals got on as a matter of some importance for two individuals who consistently posted each other via virtual entertainment. Tina's last post with her second spouse that showed up on IG was at the Vanity Fair Oscar party in Midwest. As a matter of fact, her Instagram bio used to have Richard's name. Yet Tina transformed it from Tina Knowles Lawson to Tina Knowles, dropping Rich's last name on the off chance that you didn't see Richard was additionally noticeably missing from Jay-Z's mother's Georgia Carter's and Roxanne Wilshire's wedding, despite the fact that the whole family was available. Furthermore, Tina was additionally recognizably missing from her better half screening of his new film Dark Dread at the Pith celebration in New Orleans. And the sign that just placed the nail in the casket was Richard being spotted without his wedding band, in addition to they likewise skirted their yearly genuine online entertainment presence. On commend their wedding commemoration, proving to a few that they are without a doubt not together. It was additionally seen that Tina has been erasing remarks and obstructing individuals who've been asking where Richard is on her IGs, so obviously something is going on. And in the event that you really wanted any more affirmation, Tina and Richard were absent from Enchantment Johnson's yearly summer companions voyage this year, and as a rule they join in and take bunches of photographs together. Well, they are plainly not together, and you realize we might have all disregarded several warnings in their relationship that ought to have been pointers. I mean, the principal thing that we as a whole ought to have seen as a warning was the way Richard was clearly fixated on Tina. When he initially met her when she was still with Matthew, by the manner in which I'll tell you I've known Richard for quite a long time. And when we reconnected, it was, you realize, it was simply, I feel like a gift from God. I mean, I truly imply that since I supplicated, Richard himself said that he was blown away. When he previously saw Tina in a post where he recalled the primary day he met her, he truly composed. What was so striking was that your magnificence kept on being upgraded by your mind-boggling heart, sympathy, compassion, liberality, and magnanimity. You were pregnant with Beyonce at that point, and met it, so my unbelievable fascination for you then could reside in my dream. Gracious Richard was not drawn to a pregnant wedded lady. He was likewise hitched himself around. Then he had been hitched for a considerable length of time. And his girl Bianca was 2 years of age. Well, however much Richard chose not to spread the word about his affections for Tina, he actually chose to keep her nearby as a companion, clearly, until she got separated. And afterward he took his action, no scratch that purportedly Richard didn't hold on. Until Tina was single to take his action, we as a whole have some familiarity with the Tina and Matthew circumstance, right? Matthew realizes he rehearses me, welcomed me over to the inn. Let me attempt to lay down with you influence. Music, I haven't met such a large number of individuals in my day-to-day existence who haven't preferred me. I'll just put it like that. Tina and Matthew isolated in 2009. After it surfaced that Matthew had fathered an adoration kid with Alexandra Wright Tina, then, at that point, dropped the suit in 2010, just to refile in the next year, expressing statement struggle of characters and statement, which kept them from arriving at a sensible compromise as the explanation. And it wasn't just about Alexandra on the grounds that Matthew had been cheating with different individuals for quite a while purportedly, and Jacoby was pregnant simultaneously as Alexandra Wright. And this is all on the it's an obscured line concerning whether he was truly separated from Tina or going through separate from think about what supposedly Matthew wasn't the only one doing all the cheating, since Miss Tina was likewise getting comfortable with Richard. That tea was spilled by David Lee Brewer, Beyonce's experience, growing up vocal mentor in his tell-all Beyonce, raising virtuoso and educator, and his wonder. He initially expounded on Matthew utilizing hard substances, saying statement turns out he had heightened to more grounded medications. And surprisingly, more abnormal ways of behaving. Gossip had it that Coke had since a long time ago quit fulfilling his thirst, and he had gone to break Coke and statement. Then he discussed Tina likewise going behind Matthew's back, with Richard adding statement, as before long found that, albeit despondently wedded Celestine, was not experiencing without help from anyone else, heading toward the fundamental house to recover my console one evening. I stumbled over Celestine, kissing a man. I remembered him quickly, Richard Lawson, a popular entertainer. The frightened Celestine had no real option except to present me discuss abnormal. She should be at her salon. I stretched out my hand to Richard, letting him know the amount I appreciated his work and statement. So Tina and Richard might have had something sometime before they got hitched, yet you realize the thing has additionally been said about that detachment that Tina has in every case, covertly needed Matthew back, given the amount she actually discusses him being family. Now this is my family, my ex is my family. So I'm super, you realize. I would rather not get once more into that at all. That is not what I need yet. It actually harms somewhat, right? It's actually going to be self-image. I mean, no big surprise she kept that man's last name, even after all that he put her through. And as I expressed before to many individuals, that was the greatest warning. And by all accounts, not the only one, by the manner in which one more sign that there may as yet be something there was in 2021. When Matthew was determined to have bosom disease, my most memorable side effects were areola release. And I knew promptly that that wasn't typical. And in light of the fact that I had sold mammography gear, I went quickly to the specialist. I got a mammogram then. At that point, got a biopsy. And we figured out that it was dangerous at an early beginning phase. Think about who was the main individual Matthew called when he found out about his conclusion. Correct his ex Tina likewise, in January 2023, when Beyonce was in Dubai for her show. Matthew and Tina were spotted eating something together. And it's perfect to see that they have no hamburger between them, except for given all that has happened, it would make perfect sense if they were getting something beyond a nibble together, perhaps quite possibly. It's likewise not Tina's shortcoming at all. It's conceivable that Richard is the person who accomplished something terrible. Yet one thing's for sure, a ton of things have been happening among Tina and Richard. And whether it's a stage or a partition for good, the truth will come out eventually. Obviously, supporters have additionally responded to the news, with many saying that they are not shot like this one who composed on Twitter. I somewhat had an inclination Mom Tina and Richard wouldn't endure very much, like I realized performance wasn't going to endure with Alan. Win some, you lose a few. Certain individuals additionally said that Tina has consistently given them mean energies, and she was most likely challenging to manage, particularly considering Richard is a customary man like this one you client who said she worried him. He's matured 20 or more years during that marriage. Bravo for Richard. Yet do you think the genuine motivation behind why they isolated was on the grounds that Richard could never again stand the discourtesy from Tina? Or is there something different happening there, like 1001? And Matthew back. And what on earth is going on in Hollywood? Actually, everyone is by all